They couldn't.
All right. Well, this week, guys, hello, everybody. Thanks for jumping on tonight. Part 2 of our 4-part series on competition. This one's kind of the light, more just conversational one. And we're talking about what we're calling show day bloopers, or here we go, AKA overcoming adversity. So in this sport, there's a million things that can go wrong along the way, and you've worked so hard and so long to get yourself to this point, and so you want everything to go really, really smooth, but unfortunately that's not life. It's not how it works. Seeing things tend to go awry every now and then, and in this sport where we're very dependent on how our body looks, and not swelling and doing all of those kind of things, needing to get plenty of sleep, not be bloated. Stress is not our friend right before we get on stage, that is for sure. So we're just going to kind of talk about like some pretty typical things that can and potentially, I'm not saying they will for everybody, you can compete for years with no bloopers and then you have a doozy, you never know. So just kind of being prepared and knowing what they are and kind of knowing how to navigate them ahead of time. I put just a couple lists here, and as a group we can all chime in and we can all add to our list. Big one, everybody's been watching the news, travel. If you're traveling to a show and you're having to get to the other side of the country for nationals or something like that, where you're taking multiple flights and you have connections and those sort of things, you can imagine all of the things that can go wrong in that scenario. I'm actually going to have Christine, who's one of my clients, talk about that in a little bit. And really, this conversation for me, I don't think is as much about like making a laundry list of what all the potential bloopers are, but more navigating how do you keep yourself here? You know, how do you keep yourself from spinning out of control, letting the stress overtake you, which will mess with your digestion, mess with your sleep, cause you to swell, all of those things. So how do we navigate those and keep our body in the best possible place? So travel uncertainty is a big one. Forgotten items. We all know as you're getting towards the end of prep, I call it prep brain. You know, you're not eating a lot, you're stressed, you have a million things on your mind. The chances of you forgetting something, pretty good. It happens for sure. So keep that in mind. Your suit breaking, that happens too. Connector busts. And you're, going on stage in an hour and you freak out about that. Tanning disasters, I can share a few of mine. Appointment issues, you're backstage, they're calling your class, you can't find your number. I've had that one happen too. So, and then all of the backstage issues, and we can talk a little bit about that. So we're just going to kind of tackle them one by one. And for those of you who are going to be traveling to shows, I'm going to let Christine Brandel, my client, take over and just give you, like, if everything can possibly go wrong goes wrong, this is going to be her story. So I'm going to let her fill you in. And the reason I want her to talk about this is because it was not only a disaster, but the way she handled it was absolutely beautiful. And I talked to her, I'm like, how are you doing? Are you freaking out? She's like, it is what it is. I can't control it. So I'm just going with it. So I'm going to let her, if she doesn't mind, hop on and just kind of give a little scenario of how that all went down. And then some of the things that she did really right that made it a little less stressful. So, Christine.
So I think she's talking about every year, every tournament we went to this year was a disaster. But the biggest one was I left on Wednesday morning from El Paso, Texas. And because of the crisis, I ended up in Colorado Wednesday night instead of Pittsburgh. And in Colorado, the flights were all canceled and they couldn't get me out till the next morning. So we went to try to find a hotel room, which if you know the Colorado airport, hotels are about an hour away. So we got a reservation, we went to the hotel. They told us that they didn't have a room for us. So we had to go back to the airport. We have no luggage. I have my food. But we ended up sleeping in the airport that night, freezing cold, no blankets. And I had all my food. So by the time in the morning, my food had already defrosted. It had gotten warm. So I lost all my food for nationals. So then we finally got a flight that morning. We landed in Pittsburgh. I lost my reservation at the hotel. So we stayed at the airport. And my husband went downstairs to the restaurant, and they were very kind to cook me food. Just eggs and fish is what we ate. At that point, we found out that my luggage had been lost, which had all my tanning product. So now I'm Thursday. I have no tanning product, no luggage, and Anne texted me and said, "I hate to add bad news, but you have about an hour or two to go get registered, or she'll not be able to compete on Saturday." So we jumped in an Uber, I ran down and competed. We're calling ProTan to figure out how to do a more accelerated tanning process because my tanning stuff wasn't going to get there till Friday. So I got my luggage. I got registered, thank God. Got back to the hotel, ate fish and eggs, I think is all we were able to get to. There's no stores. Nobody wanted to deliver to the airport. So when I got my luggage at the airport on Friday morning, we ran back to the hotel where now I did have a room, and started the tanning process, I believe, Friday afternoon. And I just tried to stay calm and try to just say, hey, this is what it is. I think the other caveat is that I am an OBGYN, so I deal with disaster on a pretty regular basis. So this is not life or death, is what I kept telling myself, and kept reminding myself that this is an opportunity to shine. And if I'm having trouble, so is everybody else. So that afternoon, I emailed the makeup artist, and she said that she didn't have me down for an appointment. So I sent her my receipt, and she said, "Oh, I'm so sorry." So she timed me for makeup at 2 a.m. And I think I went on stage at like 11 p.m. So then we went ahead and got my makeup done, got my hair done, and slept sitting up for a while, trying to dry the tan and try to catch up. Well, all said and done, I learned a lot from that competition. I did my best all season at nationals. I got second place. So it goes, I guess the rule of thumb is that if you freak out, it's not going to help. And I learned a lot. I carry now everything I need to compete: makeup, hair, tan. My food is frozen solid. I don't take anything that's not frozen with me. And then I also try to plan a lot early and confirm the week before. But that was my nationals trip.
Yeah, it was quite a disaster, and I kept checking on her because, normally I would expect that a client's going to be freaking out, and because of her job, she had a great perspective. She's like, in my job, when things go wrong, people can die. This is not life or death. It's going to be fine. It's food. It's a bikini. But at the end of the day, not too many people are able to get themselves in check and be like, okay, this is going to be okay. So travel is one of those things, obviously, we can't control. And usually you don't know what's going south until you're at the airport, or worse, in the air, or whatnot. So some important tips. Always, when you are traveling to a show, have your bikini and your heels in your check-in bag. Do not put those in your suitcase that is checked. Especially if you have connecting flights, if your luggage gets lost, like Christine said, you could be without a suit. So, and that one is a harder one to kind of navigate at the last second. So have your shoes, and then again, your food as well. If you can bring your food in a 6-pack or whatever and have it completely frozen so that it's with you. If all else fails, your tanning product is liquid, that has to go in your checked bag. But worst case scenario, had she not been able to get her luggage the day and start her tan, we could have signed her up to go get spray tanned. I mean, it's not ideal, but it would have happened. You can pay the host tanner to tan you and get that taken care of. She did the exact perfect thing. Her husband went down and talked to the kitchen at the hotel or at a restaurant. You'd be surprised when you tell people what your scenario is, how kind they will be and what they will do to try and help you. So you can get clean foods lots of places. Usually your solution is to call Instacart and have them get food to you, but they're not going to deliver it to the airport. So you just got to kind of roll with it a little bit there. So she did all of that stuff right. And then I've had that same scenario. You pay for your makeup and you get the schedule comes out and your name is nowhere to be found. So actually, I was going to maybe go to the next slide. So, always check that schedule when it first comes out. And here's my other tip is whether you're using the host person or you're using LeBeau or you're using V or you're using, someone who isn't the host one, make sure you have your receipt, which Christine did, which is smart. Always have your receipt with you, either saved in your phone, and then have a contact, have a contact number for that person so that you can reach out to them and say, hey, here's my receipt, I paid, I need to get on the schedule. And chances are pretty good that they can put you at 2:00 in the morning. It happens quite often, which is kind of a drag. Sometimes reach out to your coach. Sometimes we can have a little pull and call and ask if they can finagle it and move you up a little bit, but sometimes it is what it is. So she did everything right there, and it turned out she kept her stress managed and had a great showing. I've had other athletes who come unraveled and it's disastrous. They cry, their face swells, they're a hot mess, and there's just ways to get around a lot of it. So let me see, on my next slide, I did kind of talk about that. Yeah, keeping your jewelry in your carry-on. Keep your coach in the loop. That's what you're for. That's what we're here for. And we have such a big team. That comes in really handy too. Reach out, ask for help. If your coach isn't at the show, find one of the other coaches, ask for their help. There's always other competitors and other coaches that have solutions and have ways that they can help you when your brain's probably not working right. Tosh.
I'm sorry, I did not have my microphone off a little bit ago.
Okay.
I was just going to reinforce what you just said. This is why it's really, really important to do team sponsored shows. So, the benefit of when your coach is like, oh, let's look at some of the FBF sponsored shows. That's exactly why, because you have that support. And when any of these things go wrong, as long as you are communicating to your coach, we will figure out somebody there to figure out what you need figured out. And that's a huge benefit, as opposed to when you're by yourself at a show, it's like Lone Ranger, and it's not fun to have to go through a lot of this stuff. If it happens. So.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, that's such a good point. Yeah, if you're doing a one-off show in your town and there isn't a lot of other competitors or one of our coaches there, it's a little harder for us to help remotely. But again, you keep your coach in the loop. We'll do everything we can to try and help you out. Suit connectors, they're somewhat fragile. They can break. So have a little sewing kit with you. If you have a backup suit that you can bring with you, borrow anything, bring one with you. Obviously, we all have our favorite suit that we want to wear on stage, but if you have to wear your backup suit because yours breaks, it is not the end of the world. You cannot go on stage in your underwear and you can't go on naked. So wrap your head around, if I have to go on in my backup suit, it's okay. Maybe it's not my favorite suit. It's going to work out. It's still fine. Canning disasters, luckily, I think most of us and us coaches are all encouraging you. Most of us are going to the DIY, the Pro-Tan DIY. But if you are getting sprayed by the host spray tan person, follow the prep instructions to the T first and foremost. If for some reason something still goes wrong, you need to remember you did pay for that service and don't feel like you have to just live with it or you can't do anything about it. I think I was probably in my second show season and I was at San Diego at the show, used the host tanner. This was before the DIY thing was a big deal. Used the host tanner, and I woke up the morning of the show and I looked like the Incredible Hulk. My armpits were totally green. I had green streaks down my back. Inside of my legs were green, like army green. And I was like, what am I supposed to do now? Again, I didn't handle it well. I was freaking out. In hindsight, get in the shower, rinse it off, go back to the tanner and tell them you need to be resprayed and that you turned green. You paid for that service. They need to make it right. When I did finally get down there and get in line to get that resprayed, I realized everybody in line was green. So they had a formula issue with their tanner. And again, at the end of the day, had I had to go on stage looking like that, everybody else was in the same boat. It wouldn't have been, the end of the world. But yeah, I was totally army green. I've never had that happen before. I was like, what did I do wrong? Did I put on deodorant? Did I put on lotion? Where did I go wrong? But it wasn't me. It was the tanner. So those things happen. Even with the DIY, sometimes, you put your whole thing on and the morning of your coach will check you and be like, you're too dark, you're too pale, you're too orange, you're too whatever. It's okay. We can fix those things. We can correct it as we go. So again, at the end of the day, if you have to wash off your tan and start from scratch, that's what we do. So keeping that at bay. Appointment issues. So makeup appointments have a tendency to sometimes get scrambled, and sometimes you end up at a weird time. Maybe Tosh can help me kind of answer this one as well. In a pinch, I don't want everyone going out and spending a fortune on, base makeup and all this show makeup that you're probably never going to do your own makeup. But if you could have at least a foundation that's a few shades darker than your normal that would match your tan, at the end of the day, if you have to put your own makeup on, again, it's not going to make or break anything. It's not going to put you from first place to last place because you had to put on your own face. But you also can't get up there with your face glowing white with 5 shades lighter than your body. So you can at least get your base makeup fairly close to your skin tone, and then do your own makeup. Again, not ideal, but bring some fake lashes with you. I would say bring some fake lashes. Bring a foundation that's several shades darker, and maybe a lip color that's darker than you would normally wear. And just in case your appointment doesn't exist or isn't there. I only had that happen once, and it was my own fault. I had gone online and booked my makeup appointment. I booked for the wrong show. So when I got there, she's like, yeah, I don't have you anywhere. I found my receipt. She's like, yeah, this is not this show. So that was my F up. She squeezed me, and it was really great. But at the end of the day, I didn't have a backup plan. So now I know to have some things with me for that. So Tosh, any thoughts on makeup?
No, I think that's a good one. I have never done that, but I will start doing that. Also too, for the most part, whoever like the contracted vendor is, they're usually really good about having like a few slots. So whoever the promoter is, when you check in and stuff, if that ever happens to you, they can usually, kind of get you a last minute slot with whoever, because whoever they have contracted, they usually have several makeup artists. And then if you don't have your own makeup in a pinch, do not hesitate to ask people. Like, we've all been there. And like, if this is your first time or your first season competing, like, you will learn very quickly how loving the community is. And like, everybody wants to see everybody succeed, so people aren't going to be like, oh, sorry, you just got to go on stage looking like whatever. So don't, it feels scary sometimes, but whenever you have any of these things going on, stop and like tell somebody, oh my God, this is happening. And they'll be like, okay, because you never know who knows who or who can get you where you need to go.
Okay. Yeah, that's a great one. And that makes me actually think a little further down the road too. So obviously always reach out to your coach. The other thing, the promoters, I mean, they're there for you to have a good experience, and they're the one putting on this show. You can always reach out to the promoter if you're in a bind and something has gone crazy. I mean, let's say you book through LeBeau and you book for the wrong show like I did, and you need to get someone to do your makeup. Ask the promoter if you're panicking and like, I don't even know who the sponsored makeup person is for this show. Find a promoter. They're usually at the check-in booth, and they're there to help you. So you can always ask them as well for suggestions. Christine, did you have a question?
Yeah, I did. For the integration, because I had all those issues last year, I actually put my base tan on the night before I leave and then shower it off. And then I carry my regular products in my suitcase, but in my carry-on is their competition size stuff that I carry. So my suitcase is lost, I still have my base coat, which can last a day or two. And then I can either reapply it, or I'm pretty white, so I can reapply without a problem. But I do my base coat before I even leave town, the night before we leave, and then do the trial products just in case.
Smart, super smart. Yeah, really, really smart. Okay, let's see. Hair, that's another appointment, or that's another issue. Same thing, if you have a hair appointment and that gets screwed up, or you plan on doing your own hair, just think of all the things that can go wrong. Did you forget your extension? I've had that happen before too. Again, you're going to spin out about something that at the end of the day, it wasn't the end of the world. So I didn't have extensions, and big deal. You know, you just kind of have to, I guess the whole point of a lot of this presentation is like learning to roll with the punches and just adapt to it, so that, because at the end of the day, your stress level and what that does to your body is going to impact you more than being on stage without hair, or being on stage without the perfect lip color, or the suit that you love so much. So you just got to kind of roll with adversity and get through it the best you can. Let's now talk about backstage issues. So everything's going okay. You get there, you get backstage. You've got some waiting time, obviously, before your class. Things that can happen backstage. I always encourage you, if you're at a show, usually they will post on the wall all of the classes, all of the papers for, you know, each of the classes. Know what classes you signed up for, find those sheets, and then make sure you're on them. I've had a few clients end up on the wrong sheet or in the wrong class or that sort of thing, and they're panicking. Like, I signed up for that class, but I'm not on the right register sheet. Find one of the proctors, or have your coach find the proctor, and just let the proctor know, hey, my client, their name is in the wrong class. They need to be moved over to this class. They can handle it. They'll cross it out and move it over and take care of those issues. Lost or forgotten numbers. That's the other one I'm famous for. So if you have a wingman, my husband's my wingman. Thank God, he's my external brain, because I don't function well. I'm like in la la land. My head is separated from my body, and so he kind of guides me around like I have no brain. So he's learned to now come with me to check in, take my number from me, and he puts it in my bag that he knows is coming backstage with me, because I always forget my number back in the room, and he's had to race back to hotels, Airbnbs multiple times to get my number. But at the end of the day, if you truly don't have your number, you don't have anyone go get it for you, or you flat lost it and you have no idea where it is, again, find the proctors, let them know. They're going to be cranky. They usually are. They're cranky about it, and they'll give you a little extra. But at the end of the day, they're going to give you a new number, and they're going to cross out the sheets for the judges and fill in the right number. So a lost number is panicky, but it's not the end of the world. Natasha.
Sorry. We have people still trying to dial in. Okay, so just kind of a little adjunct onto Anne. So apparently Anne's husband, Frankie, is like the number finder, because when we went to Bermuda, I did the exact same thing, not knowing that Anne has done this before. So who did I call first? Frankie. And it was quite funny, because in Bermuda, I think we were almost like, what, Anne, like 45 minutes away from the hotel. Yeah. And I remember, like, we had to go through COVID testing. We had to go through all these testings before we had to like get to the actual venue. And I remember that day, like, my stress levels were through the roof. And it's not worth it, where like I was just panicking, and I was thinking like, oh my God, they're going to tell me I can't do this. And at the end of the day, I just told the promoters, and because the timing didn't work, just told the promoters. They weren't happy with me. But that's okay. You know, we got it done, and they find you another number. But the funny thing is, every time they introduced me, they said, oh, this is number at whatever it is, 95, remember, but like they said something silly, like I'm supposed to be another number. So they'll make light of it as well, because these things, just want to keep reminding you guys, it happens to so many people. So you're not alone. And so just try to remember to keep those cortisol and those stress levels, lower, because it doesn't do us any favors in terms of our physique.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. Any other show days for those of you who have competed? Feel free, chime in, share your story, or one thing I didn't put on this sheet that's another one to think about, that happens a lot and sends people over the edge. Your Mother Nature comes to visit you the night before the show or the day of the show, and you didn't know that was going to happen, and that sends you over the edge. So again, you can't control it. You can't do anything about it. You may be holding a tiny bit of extra water, but at the end of the day, it's more of a minor inconvenience than it is the end of the world. Ladies, if that happens to you, cut your string off. It will hang out of your bikini on stage, and that's the worst thing that honestly can happen. So cut that string off. That's my 2 cents on that. Yeah. Anyone? Stories, input, thoughts?
Hot
Hi,
flash.
Amanda.
Tan, with tanning the hot flashes. So sometimes you got to do some work to fix that.
Yeah, but it's fixable, right? Like you know, you have your little foam pad, you can reapply, you can fix streaks. Pee funnel, make sure you have your pee funnel with you and you use it, because if you will inevitably pee on yourself, and you will have a big white streak down the center of your leg from where your tan is no longer there. So again, it's fixable. Don't freak out. Oh, in the other thing I meant to mention on tanning. So because everybody is a lot of people are doing the DIY tanning. What happens is you get backstage and it's hit or miss as to whether or not the host tanner will glaze you. So plenty of athletes, you got your tan on, you're backstage, they're saying bikini, class A, whatever, you need to be glazed. You go over to get glazed and they're like, yeah, we didn't do your tan, we're not glazing you. And you freak out because you don't have glaze with you. Again, find another, if you don't, so I would recommend having a small bottle of glaze in your bag all the time. And on this call, we can also talk through, you know, what to have in your little roller bag, so you have all of your emergency stuff with you backstage. But glaze, gloves, surgical gloves, so that you're not covered in oil, but glaze. And worst case scenario, ask somebody backstage. Make friends with somebody and ask if you can borrow a little bit of their glaze. Sometimes the host tanner is great and they'll glaze everybody. Sometimes they're real jerks about it. So you never kind of know what's going to happen with glazing. Be prepared on the glazing front. See a hand? I don't see a hand.
If you and go over the bag thing, that'd be great. Like what to bring in our bag. I'm always forgetting something.
Yeah. We'll kind of do a laundry list of this. So in your bag, pump up bands. Make sure you have your pump up bands. I would have safety pins and a little sewing kit in case your suit does break or something breaks on that regard. Glaze, gloves, something to apply the glaze with. Usually you can just use spray glaze and just kind of rub it down. So your glaze, have a blanket or little slippers or socks. Usually you're going to want to camp out backstage and get your feet up so you don't swell. You want to have something to lay on. I've had this happen before at nationals. Popped myself down on the floor. Somebody had spilled water. My whole butt was wet. My tan looked like I had some disease. My whole butt was just a mess from sitting on a wet floor. So lesson learned, always have like a blanket or something in your little bag that you can sit on, or wrap over yourself, because sometimes that's the other thing backstage. If you haven't competed yet, it's usually freezing backstage, freezing. So you're going to want to keep something. You have no body fat and you're in a little tiny bikini, and they keep it like Arctic cold back there. So have something to cover yourself up a little bit with, something to keep your feet warm, something to sit on and put your feet up. Have some food with you. Have a meal and then have your pump up food, you know, rice cakes. I'm not a huge fan of the bottle of honey program backstage. It's a freaking mess. It gets all over everything. You're sticky. Everything gets sticky. So if you can find a reasonable type of honey, great. But I think, you know, like gummy candies work better. But again, ask your coach what they recommend. But I've had mishaps with honey leaking in my bag, getting all over me. And you know, you can't really wash your hands because then your tan runs everywhere. So you don't really want to be sticky. So honey's not my best friend. Have your water bottle, have your water with you so you can sip on water in something that isn't going to, again, dribble down the front of you. What else do I have in my bag at all times? Obviously, have your cell phone in there. You may want to have the things that you would need to show to a promoter if you don't have, like if you have your receipt for your entry form, if you're not on the right classes, you need to be able to prove that you really did pay for and sign up for that class. Those are good things to have. Your NPC card is good to have on you. If anyone gives you grief about that. Obviously, your heels, your number. Put your number in your bag as soon as you get it at registration. Lip gloss. Yeah. I see that. Yeah. Extra lip colors.
Backup suit.
Yes, a backup suit. We talked about that. Always good to have in your little bag. So
if you if you have an extra pair of shoes, I would definitely have those with you, because, you know, we wear like plastic Barbie shoes, so they can give out. So those are always good to have if you can have them. Eyelash glue is like the number one thing you're always going to hear people being like, does anybody have any eyelash glue? Nail glue is also a big thing. If people, for people that have nails. Headphones. If you are the type of person that you get overstimulated, or like it's, like having headphones or something on just to kind of zone everything out, that's always really helpful as well. Because sometimes you're not able to know how long you're going to be backstage.
Maybe like being prepared before show day. Like I always like to have my stage bag packed the day before, because the day of is just no common sense happens the day of. And then like before, like I walk downstairs, I make sure I just have the main things: my number, my shoes, like the things I can't go on stage without. I at least double check and make sure I have those things.
Yeah, perfect. Thanks, Amanda. Who else? Danny. Danny, you had your hand up and you're on mute. No? Maybe not. Kelsey, you're up.
Yes, one of the things that I like to have is a food scale with me. In the event my coach changes my food or wants me to eat a different quantity, just so I can double check it. Pre-measuring your food, I think, is the best choice, so that's ready to go. But I always like to have a backup and even maybe a second, or batteries, because I've had people whose scales died and then are needing to borrow, which again, people are always willing to share, but it's just nice to have.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. That's a good one. Danny.
Yeah, okay, there it is. I had to fix my microphone. The settings were off. Okay, question and a comment. So comment first. My last show, I decided to wear my hair natural, something I had never done before. I had asked for a specific hairstylist that deals with black or natural hair, which they did. Unfortunately, the hairstylist was also doing my makeup, did my makeup first, and didn't realize she had to do my hair. So, and they didn't have any spray bottles. They didn't even have a towel like to put over my face because the makeup was done. So we had to make it work. I ended up kind of helping her do my hair. Just to Anne's point or someone else's point, bring your hair products if you can, especially if you have different or natural hair that folks aren't used to working with. Bring your stuff with you and be prepared to do your own hair, because that was my hair was in little braids, and I had to get into this really nice glamorous afro. So yeah, not an easy trick, but that happened last show. And then question for you all, it hasn't happened to me, but sometimes when you're flying, they'll make you check your carry-on if the flight is too full. What do you do then?
I could be wrong on this, so anyone else chime in if you're right. But usually if they take your check-in, it's at the door of the plane. So in fact, it's getting on that plane. And then when you deboard, they hand you your carry-on. And so it would go with you to the next plane. If you're making a connection, it doesn't get checked through like your regular checked baggage, I don't believe. Any thumbs up, thumbs
my
down?
experience, me and my husband, we fly a lot because we travel for work, but that's my experience. They'll pink tag it, which means it's going to be plane side, so it'll be there when you get off.
Okay.
I've actually had both things happen on flights, where sometimes they'll check it and you actually have to go to baggage carousel to get it, and other times where I've been able to just get it at the side of the plane. So it's not always there. For me, if you even carry a small purse, like not a small purse, but like a handbag that they're not going to take away from you, I would at least make sure I have my suit and my shoes in that bag. Everything else you can kind of figure out: your suit, shoes, jewelry, and like a handbag, because that they won't take away from you.
Thanks.
Good one. Stephanie, did you solve a question?
No, I was just going to say, you always have your under your seat in front of you. So I would put my suit and my shoes at a minimum in that, just as Judith was saying.
Perfect. All right. Uh, everybody. So I'm just reading people's comments. Guy said I had platinum blonde hair, literally sweated my tan into my hair and dyed her hair kind of a reddish color. I could see that being an issue. I had a client who's got beautiful, she's older, but natural, just white hair. And she actually had her hair done at the show by someone, and they left the curling iron in her hair too long and burned her hair. And so she had like brown, like burn marks in her beautiful white hair that she had to get fixed after the show. So that was not great. Anyone have tips for avoiding drastically sweating on stage, like dripping sweat? I wish I did. I don't. And it's interesting because you'll see, I've been at shows where, I think it was one of the Sacramento shows where it was insanely hot in that room. And even the pros went on, and the pros were literally dripping sweat, and the stage hands were bringing on paper towels in between like their routines and patting them off on stage because everybody was just like dripping sweat, which is part of why they keep it so cold backstage, as they're trying to keep everybody from, sweating really bad. But sometimes if it's hot in there, or you're on stage for a long time, if you have a really big class, the lights on that stage, they're hot and they're brutal, and there's just not a whole lot you can do about being sweaty. Christine, did you have a comment?
If it's a certain area that you sweat more than others, there is a prescription antiperspirant called Dry Sol. It was actually designed for the bottom of your feet and your palms and your hands, but you can use it anywhere on your body. And if you prep with it, it's an antiperspirant that you only use once a week. So if you can prep, works, especially if you got like armpits or someplace that you really sweat a lot, you can use it once a day for 3 days and then use it once a week after that with no other deodorant. So it's prescription strength Dry Sol.
Yeah, but you know how some like deodorants turn your armpits green? I wonder would that change the color of the tan, like the chemicals in it?
Well, since you use it once a week, I'm not sure it would, because you wouldn't react to it. I think it changes the function of the sweat gland, but you could look into it.
Yeah, it'd be worth it.
Yeah, no, mine's just in general. Like when I'm on stage, like I normally run hot, and I just like sweat, like, and my whole tan just comes off like while I'm standing on stage.
Oh, wow. Yep. I've seen a lot of, when the classes are big, that happens a lot. Gosh, I don't know. I wonder if like one of those, like those cool wrap things that you can put around the back of your neck, if it would help at all to try and get yourself really cooled down before you go on stage. If that would
Yeah, it's actually not when I'm like behind stage. It's, well, like you said, I usually have a pretty bigger class, my height class, and I'm just standing on stage. And I know I've been on like lineups where I'm just like dripping sweat. And then you get off, and I've never, I've been out of the game for a couple years, but like even when I get off stage, like in between master's class and open, my tan's all screwed up. So, but I've never done, I actually like Corinne just, and this is like the whole like self tanning thing is like brand new to me. It blows my mind. I'm still mind boggled by it.
Which will be great for you, because then you'll be in a position where you will be able to touch up your own tan between classes, which is huge.
Absolutely. I'm pretty excited, but it's like the first time jitters, because I've usually just done the show tanners.
Yeah.
I was going to suggest, Sky, if Corinne has suggested the DIY, that's going to be awesome. And then maybe making sure you're on that call that we have with Alyssa from ProTan, and you can specifically ask her that. And I mean, she has like workarounds, I feel like, for everything tan related, and she can give you her honest opinion. So that's going to be our last call of the series.
I'm super excited about that, because like I think Kelsey and all them were at our last like session where my mind was blown to think that bikini competitors, I mean, it's probably been 3 or 4 years since I competed, and back then no one would ever dare to do your own tan. So this is going to be interesting.
Yeah. Pretty great for the most part. With that said, I can see Kelly, my little Kelly, is on this call, and just another idea, and maybe we can talk to on that last call as well. And I think Corinne's actually had this issue too. Maybe if you've never used it before, maybe do a trial run with the product, even if you just do a couple of coats a week out, because not everybody's skin is super friendly with the DIY tan. Kelly, you want to share your little experience with the group?
Oh gosh. That was a terrible day. So we did the Pro-Tan do it yourself, and the day of the show, I had one problem after another. First of all, I was having all kinds of food issues, so I was bloated on stage. But the worst part about the whole thing was I had an allergic reaction to the tan. So we were in the hotel room between prejudging and finals, and I was just scratching my neck like crazy. It literally scratched the tan off my neck. So we went to put our suits on, and Anne was like, your neck is white and red because you've been itching. So we have to fix this right now. It was not a fun day, but I'm really hoping that I don't have another allergic reaction because we are planning on doing a show coming up soon. So
yeah, she had scabs all over her body for like a week. She was a hot mess.
Mhm.
What did you do to get on stage? Like what? I don't even know what you would do at that point.
Just did
she
it.
Just toughed it out. She just toughed it out.
I was
It
miserable.
and itchy.
Yeah, even after I washed it off and we went to dinner after the show, it was still not pleasant.
Kelly, I would definitely recommend taking a non-sedating antihistamine at least 24 hours. Stay out and have it in your system before you put the product on your skin.
So I take Zyrtec every day. Does that count?
Yeah, so make sure you take your Zyrtec, bring some hydrocortisone cream, maybe take some prednisone. But
I think Liquid Sunrays makes a product because I think they were talking about that there's a particular, there's something specific in tanner that can cause that reaction. And I do think like there are competition tan products that make them without whatever that chemical is.
And you think it's Liquid Sunrays? Because that was one of the things we talked about, is maybe doing some research and seeing if there's one like a hypoallergenic kind of tanner out there, because she's got really sensitive skin, and I don't want her to be a scabby mess again this year. So there's a workaround. That'd be great.
Yeah, I attended a seminar and Liquid Sunrays was there, and I'm pretty sure they were saying their product is good for that situation.
Okay.
Yeah, I was gonna say I definitely know there's an alternative. Just because I actually break out in hives from hotel. I travel a lot for work, and I break out from hotel sheets, the bleach in hotel sheets. And for sure, there's I don't know what tanning line it was, but there is definitely a hypoallergenic one.
And I would, just so I don't forget, reach out to Coach Jordan.
Okay.
Yeah, I think she used LSR for a minute before Pro-Tan came out with their product.
Okay. Right. I'll make a note to give her a ring. Wow, these are all good, good things. What are some other things? Oh, let's see. I'm just going to try and think through like every scenario I've had with clients. I had a client freak out one time because we were like probably an hour or so from going on stage. She lost an earring. She only had one earring. Like, again, at the end of the day, you're not being judged on your earrings. So if you go on stage without earrings, it is not the end of the world. However, there's usually a booth at the show selling jewelry, almost always. So she was coming unglued, and it was like a 5-minute fix. We walked over to the booth, we bought her some earrings. It was totally fine. So I guess the moral of the story, no matter what the situation is like, talk yourself off a ledge, get a grip, reach out, phone a friend, get a hold of your coach, reach out to the promoter, ask another competitor. Even if you don't know them, they will try and help you out, and just do everything you can to keep yourself calm, because being swollen, stressed, full of cortisol on stage is a million times worse them being up there without an earring or in the suit you don't love or without your tan being totally perfect. Life happens. So learn to manage your stress the best you possibly can. And just think through ahead of time. Try and think through every possible, I think I put on one of these slides. Yeah, expect the best, but prepare for the worst. Kind of prepare and think through all the things that could possibly go wrong. Hope that they don't, but if they do, at least you'll be prepared.
Something else I've noticed is people not getting there when the show starts, and they either miss their class or they're basically rushing and running on stage, and that does not sound like a fun scenario to be in. I always just make sure I'm there right when the show starts, unless they're specifically saying it starts at 8 but we're starting women at 2. The Spectrum shows are the only ones I don't do that, but I make sure I'm there before 2 or whatever. But I think that's something to be aware of. I just see people go, oh, it starts at 8, but then bikini won't go on until this time, and end up missing it because it could be a small show with not very many competitors and it might go fast. I think we saw that at Tahoe. There was
yeah,
right, there were still girls getting their makeup done, and I mean that's probably the props to having your hair and makeup done by the show sponsor, that they held the show up, they paused it so that everyone could get finished getting ready. But that's just something maybe to be aware of.
Yeah, that's really actually a good one. I mean, we've had that scenario before too, where and there is, you kind of got to weigh it a little bit, and again, reach out to your coach. But that's what happens sometimes. We just get in our head oh, I don't want to sit backstage freezing for 3 hours, and the show, there's 40 classes ahead of me. There's no way we're going to go on before 1. And then you find out at 11 they're calling your class, and you're up in your room, and you're sprinting down the hallway to try and get there. That's way more stressful than having to sit backstage board for a little bit of time. So, it's kind of what you sign up for. You have no idea what time you're going on stage. So just get there, bring your snacks, bring a blanket, camp out, make the best of it. Yeah. It's not always the worst thing too. I mean, a lot of times I've made some really good relationships with people, just other competitors, that you're all bored, you're all sitting around, and you get to meet people and find out where they're from and get their story. And I've met so many incredible women just sitting around backstage waiting for hours to go on stage. So it's not such a bad thing. Use your time to network. Let's see, there's some other comments we had pop up in here. Earring fell off during the show. Yeah, again, I've seen that happen too. Usually the proctors are really good. They'll grab your earring and they'll carry it off stage and hand it to you when they can. Yeah. Anybody have any other comments?
Oh, can you touch on, I don't know if this is off topic at all, but if you felt like you stumbled once you get on stage?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Yes, that happens too. So again, another example of, you never know what's going to happen or what to expect. When I help my clients pose, I'll tell them a lot of times, practicing your heels on different surfaces, because when you never know until you get to that show what the stage is going to look like. Sometimes it's really low, almost carpeting, sometimes it's industrial carpeting. Sometimes it's rubbery and your feet stick to it, so it's really hard to pivot on it. Sometimes there's seams that make it uneven. So be prepared for any kind of surface that's going to be up there. And then again, you don't get a do-over. So if you kind of stumble getting out there, you can't be like, oh my God, I'm so embarrassed, I'm going to walk off and start over again, which is what you do when you're practicing at home, right? Oh, I just screwed that up, I'm going to start over. When you're practicing at home and you have one of those moments where you're like, oh, I just screwed up, force yourself to keep going. Force yourself to practice what it feels like to okay, I just had a bobble, keep moving, pretend like nothing happened. You have to maintain your composure when you're on stage, because you don't get a do-over. So if you feel like you bobbled, the best thing you can do is learn to not facially react or be like, make those horrible faces oh, I'm so embarrassed, I just screwed up, and just keep going. I mean, just keep going and go through your routine. I guarantee you the judges have all seen people stumble, shake, do everything under the sun. I'm sure in their careers they've done the same. So we're all human, but yes, you have to learn to have that stage presence to know to keep going. Finish your routine, keep a smile on your face, have a sense of humor, and present yourself the best you possibly can.
Absolutely. I second that. And just keeping your head, they're looking for your confidence. That's what they're looking for. And I know, like, even as a coach now, getting to watch the entire show, there's very few people that don't stumble. So, I mean, almost everybody gets up there and like either they're shaky or something. And the judges are very aware of that, especially like if you compete, like if it's your first show and you're doing true novice, they know these things. So it's a confidence thing, so keep your shoulders, high and back and smile, because that's what makes the difference.
That's true. All right. Some of these other comments, make sure we got to everybody. Yep, I think that's everybody's questions. Yep. Yeah. All right. We're getting close to the end of the call. Does anyone have any other comments, questions, things they're concerned about or wonder about if you never competed? No. Okay, then Tosh, I think you're up. We're going to do our drawing. What's our prize tonight?
I think today is Legion.
It is. Okay.
Yeah. So, but before I do the drawing, just want to let you guys know our call next week. Mama Bear will be joining us to share with you guys the FBF experience, show day experience. So it would be a really, really good call. Season has already started, so we're so lucky to have her with us next Sunday because like trying to get on her calendar is crazy. So we hope you can join us. But this week's giveaway is Legion, and they have so graciously given us 3 codes that's going to give you 100% of a product. So you get to pick any product off of their website, and then you'll put the code in. So if I draw your name, I'm going to put my phone number, or no, I want you to text me. Yeah. So I'll give you guys my phone number once I draw the numbers, and then whoever won, you'll take down my number and I want you to send me a text and then I'll get you the code. All right.
Are we going to have 3 winners? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
3 winners,
Oh, cool.
because Miles gave us 3 codes. So
Awesome.
very thankful for them sponsoring this call. All right. So I have everybody in our random picker, and our winners are Naomi, Margarita, and Danette.
Oh, nice.
Congratulations. So please take my phone number down and send me a text right now. It is area code 520-800-9219.
Should we just put it in the comment box, Tosh?
Yeah.
Rattle it off one more time and I'll type it in.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. 520
Okay.
800-9219.
Got it.
Great. So 3 winners, please send me a text, and then I'll get you that code. And then thank you guys so much for taking time out of your Sunday. So next week we have Mama Bear, and then after that we'll have Toxic, and they are doing a giveaway. And then LeBeau will be on that call. They're both amazing, both Amber and Mary. And then our last call will be Protan, and she has a really, really, really good giveaway. I think she's giving away a full competition kit. So we're super excited to have you guys join us. Thank you so much. Shine bright this week and have an amazing week.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great night. Thanks for being on. See you next week.